I've wanted to make a video like this for some time now. All I've lacked was the right presentation vehicle. Well, I just got handed one on a silver platter and I'm not about to let it pass me up. So here goes. If you've somehow managed to avoid hearing the word woke before now, I've called it the new secular religion of the political left, and I stand by that view. Although I've also heard it called the way illiterate people say enlightened, which I personally find both more entertaining and appropriate. But in the interest of scholarly exactitude, my point here is that its most public manifestation, the DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative, has been making the rounds in more mainstream headlines as of late, with everyone from Dwayne Johnson to Stephen Colbert to The Daily Show now calling it out as the woke corporate PR stunt that it's always been. The problem now is that there are many non- or anti-woke media pundits doing the rounds chanting, DEI is DED, hurrah, hurrah. But it's not dead. It's just in remission. I know this because I've seen this form of ideological retreat before, and as such, I know what their next move is going to be. For those who don't already see where I'm going with this, let me quickly catch you up on my political upbringing, as it were. My first ever sortie into these sorts of topics was in the early 2010s, back during the whole atheist skeptic movement here on YouTube. Back then, the big enemy of reason and logic was the conservative religious right, specifically the Christian creationist sector here in the States. Again, for those who don't know, creationism is the fundamentalist Christian view that all the biblical stories, in particular the ones in Genesis and Exodus, are really, literally, historically true in every detail, right down to the idea that the whole universe was literally conjured out of nothing by a spoken spell in the span of an actual standard work week. And it was during my coming of age amidst the battle between the dogmatic, repressive, authoritarian zealotry of the old-era behemoths and the new free-thinking radicals of the information age that I first encountered the concept of ideological rebranding. Some of you watching might be old enough to remember the Satanic Panic. Though that era was before my time, I've done enough research on it to confidently equate its trespasses with those of the modern woke hegemony and its unrepentant jihad against all forms and facets of Western culture. What does this have to do with DEI and ESG, or environmental social governance, which is the other major component of the woke social transmutation project? Well, in order to understand, I need to tell you a little story. One from way back before the internet, in the ancient, mysterious time of 1981. For you see, back in this time, a fierce legal contest was being had between the theocratic proponents of what was then being touted as creation science and those of a secular dominion in favor of Darwinian evolution, which culminated in a bill that would not so much ban the teaching of evolution in schools, as many in the atheistic pool like to assert, but would make it so that schools had to teach both alongside the other or none at all. This, the secular side argued, was a blatant violation of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause, which stated that Congress shall make no law respecting any establishment of religion. To which the creationists argued back that the same clause also stipulated Congress could not prohibit the free exercise of any religion either, and so remained the deadlock, with neither side being willing to budge or yield. I won't drag you through all the nitty-gritty details of the debate. Just know that in 1985, the Supreme Court finally weighed in and decided that the proposed act would be impermissibly unconstitutional as it had a, quote, preeminent religious purpose. However, the ruling did leave open the door for alternative scientific theories to be taught instead of evolution. So naturally, the brain trust of the religious right got straight to work, quietly converting an explicitly creationist textbook called Of Pandas and People into one bearing the more secular-coded skin of intelligent design. And I do mean a secular skin, as the so-called conversion constituted only two major revisions. One, every instance of the word creationism was changed to intelligent design, and two, every instance of creationist was changed to read design proponents. Fortunately, this thin charade was eventually discovered and challenged in the District Court of Dover, Pennsylvania in 2005. The Dover Panda Trial, as it would become known, was heralded as a landmark event in the separation of church and state because it determined that both creationism and intelligent design were nothing more than religious propaganda with no scientific validity whatsoever, and therefore had no business whatsoever being taught in or around a science classroom. Now, before anyone goes accusing me of trying to paint religious conservatism in the same counter-rationalist light as cultural wokeness, that's not my intention. My only point is that we, as in Americans, have seen this kind of maneuver before.
It's all about the greater good.
The greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
The greater good.
How can this be for the greater good?
The greater good.
Shut it!
Ideologues are zealots. They truly believe they are on the right side of history. When questioned in the wake of the Dover trial, the anti-science activists of the day admitted to having lied on the stand multiple times in order to push their religious agenda onto other people's children. And of course, they went on to defend their not only unconstitutional but outright illegal actions by claiming that it was all for their version of the greater good.
The greater good.
And don't forget, this was all before the rise of the internet and the smartphone and the digitization of all your personal information. DEI and ESG, wokeness and all their same neo-Marxist ilk haven't gone anywhere, as they are all just symptoms of the real problem, not its source. So, what is the real problem? Well, I could tell you, but instead I think I'll let them sum it up for me in their own words.
There is no good and evil. There is only power. And those too weak to seek it.
Whoops. Sorry. Wrong clip.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
And there you have it. These people... No, screw that. These things, these vampiric ghouls prancing around in human skin suits, don't care about diversity or the environment any more than they care about real democracy or the greater good. They just want power. They want to rule over you. And if they can use your own moral compass, your own human empathy, your own better natures to secure a better hold over your chains, you better believe they'll do it in a heartbeat. But just remember, they can't actually force behaviors. They can only incentivize them. So, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say, as long as we are forced to share our world with monsters, show me what you love more than your freedom, and I'll show you the metal of your chains. I don't normally say things like this, but as it seems almost too appropriate in this context, go with God and don't confuse that little devil on your shoulder for him. Verum in omnibus.